Everyone hates vultures, but the bird you've spent your whole life avoiding might be one of the reasons deadly diseases never spread through your city. Stay until the end because fact number 7 is going to blow your mind. The vulture is the bird nobody wants near their house. When one shows up circling high in the sky, it gives you that uneasy feeling. The first thing that comes to mind is death, rot, that heavy smell of a dead animal baking in the sun. So the natural reaction is to wrinkle your nose and pretend it doesn't exist. But the truth is, this bird carries secrets that most people will never find out in their lifetime. Secrets so insane, you're going to want to tell someone about them the second this video ends. Today, I'm going to show you 8 facts about vultures that are going to make you see this animal in a completely different way. I promise. We grow up hearing that vultures are bad omens, that they're ugly, that they're useless. In stories and movies, in family conversations, the vulture always shows up as a symbol of something bad. But that happens because we never actually stopped to understand what this animal is, what it does, and why nature built it the way it did. And once you understand, your whole view of it is going to flip upside down. Let's get into it. Fact 1. Vultures pee on their own legs, and they do it on purpose. I know that sounds disgusting, but hold on, because there's a really good reason for it. Vultures have a behavior that scientists call urohydrosis. Basically, they urinate on their own legs regularly, and it's not by accident. They do it for 2 very specific reasons, and both make total sense once you understand how they live. The first reason is to cool down. Vultures don't have sweat glands like we do. When the heat is intense, and vultures live in places where heat is constant, one of the ways they lower their body temperature is exactly this. The urine evaporates on their legs, and as it evaporates, it cools down the blood flowing through that area. It's the vulture's natural air conditioning system. Simple, efficient, and completely unlike anything we use. The second reason is hygiene. When a vulture walks on a carcass, a dead animal that's sometimes been sitting outside in the heat for days, it ends up stepping on bacteria, viruses, and fungi. Their urine is highly acidic, and that acid kills a large portion of those microorganisms that get stuck on their feet. It's like they're constantly applying disinfectant to their own legs automatically. It looks disgusting on the surface, but in practice, it's a double system of cleaning and cooling that evolution took millions of years to build. You can't help but respect that. Fact 2. The vulture's stomach is one of the most acidic on the planet. If you think the human stomach is strong, wait until you hear about the vulture's. The vulture's stomach has a pH close to 0. To give you an idea of what that means, the acid in a human stomach sits between 1.5 and 3.5. The vulture's is even stronger than that. This level of acidity is so extreme it can destroy things that would kill any other living creature. Vultures eat rotten meat that's been sitting out for days, sometimes weeks in the sun, meat loaded with dangerous bacteria. That meat can carry anthrax, the bacteria behind botulism, the agent responsible for cholera. Any one of those things would kill a human being. It would kill most animals on this planet. But inside the vulture's stomach, those bacteria simply don't survive. The acid is so powerful it digests what would be pure poison for everyone else and turns it into energy for the vulture itself. It's like the vulture is a living biological filter walking around the world, neutralizing threats that we can't even see. Scientists who studied the vulture's digestive system were stunned by the number of disease-causing organisms it can eliminate during the digestion process alone. While it's eating, it's not poisoning itself. It's destroying diseases. Fact 3. The vulture has one of the best senses of smell of any bird in the world. Here's something most people don't know. The majority of birds have almost no sense of smell. Birds' olfactory systems in general are very weak. They rely almost entirely on their vision for everything. The vulture completely breaks that rule. Especially the turkey vulture, one of the most common species in the Americas, has an extremely developed sense of smell. It can detect the scent of decomposition from miles away. Not meters, miles. While soaring up high in slow circles, it's sniffing the air and tracking the smell of things that died far, far away. And there's a story that illustrates this in a way that sounds made up, but it's real. Natural gas companies in the United States figured out they could use vultures to locate leaks in buried pipelines. The process was simple. They added a substance called ethanethyl to the gas. It has a smell very similar to rotting flesh. When there was a leak, vultures in the area would flock directly to that exact spot, and then the technicians knew where the problem was without having to dig up the ground randomly. The vulture became a living gas leak detector. That's the level of this bird's sense of smell. Fact 4. Vultures don't build nests. Most birds spend a good amount of time building nests. It's a central part of their lives. Finding the right spot, gathering twigs, putting the structure together, lining the inside with softer materials to protect their eggs. That takes a lot of effort, time, and energy. And for many species, the nest is something they defend fiercely. The vulture does none of that. It simply doesn't build a nest. When breeding season comes around, it looks for a naturally sheltered spot, under a large rock, inside a hollow rotting log, in a cave, in an abandoned building, in a hidden corner deep in the brush, and lays the egg right there, directly on the ground or on whatever surface it chose. No nest, no structure, no construction effort. It just uses what the environment already has. And it works perfectly fine. The chicks are born, they grow up, and the cycle continues normally. The vulture evolved in such a direct and practical way that it eliminated a step that for other birds is absolutely essential. That says a lot about how this animal was tuned by nature to save energy and use available resources in the simplest way possible. Fact 7. Vultures can go weeks without eating. Imagine going an entire week without eating. Just thinking about it is rough. Now imagine weeks, plural. The vulture handles that with relative ease. It has a metabolism that's highly adapted to periods of scarcity. When food isn't available, its body shifts into an economy mode that allows it to survive for a long time without eating. That makes total sense when you think about how it lives. The vulture depends on dead animals for food, and dead animals don't show up on a schedule. Sometimes there's plenty available in the area. Sometimes there's almost nothing for days or weeks. So its body was adjusted over millions of years to handle both extremes. When it finds food, it eats a lot and stores energy. When it doesn't find any, it holds on and waits. It's a survival machine calibrated to work in both abundance and scarcity. Fact 6. Vultures defend themselves by vomiting. This is where things get really strange. When a vulture feels threatened, when a predator gets too close, when it's cornered with no way out, when it needs to take off fast to escape, it vomits. And it's not a discrete or accidental vomit. The vulture's vomit is acidic, smells absolutely awful, and works as a defense weapon. When it throws that at a predator, the acid and the smell force the attacker to back off. It's like a pepper spray it carries inside its own body at all times, no equipment needed. But besides defense, there's another reason for this behavior: weight. A vulture's stomach after a big meal can be very full and heavy. That makes flying harder, slows it down, and leaves it more vulnerable. When it needs to take off fast to escape a threat, vomiting relieves the weight and makes it easier to get airborne. So, vomiting for the vulture solves two problems at the same time, drives away the enemy, and makes it lighter to fly. Two problems, one action. Total efficiency. Fact 7. Without vultures, the world would have seen far worse epidemics. This is the most important fact on the entire list, and also the one that hits hardest once you understand what actually happened. In India, during the 1990s and early 2000s, the vulture population collapsed. Within a decade, the number of these animals in the country dropped by over 95%. They practically vanished. The cause was a veterinary drug called diclofenac, which was given to cattle to treat inflammation. When the cattle died and vultures ate the contaminated carcasses, they died too. Millions of them, in one of the largest population collapses of any bird species ever recorded in history. The result was a disaster. Without vultures to clean up the carcasses, the bodies of dead animals started piling up across the country. That attracted other animals, mainly stray dogs and rats, which began feeding on those rotting carcasses. But those animals don't have the vulture's stomach. They don't eliminate the bacteria. They get contaminated and spread the diseases they carry to other places, other animals, and people. The population of rabid dogs exploded in several regions of India. Rabies hospital cases increased significantly. Diseases that had been under control started coming back. It's estimated that tens of thousands of people died as a direct and indirect consequence of the vultures disappearing. Think about that for a second. A bird that everyone ignores, that everyone thinks is ugly and useless, was silently preventing deadly diseases from spreading. And when it disappeared, the weight of that absence crashed down on people in the most brutal way. The vulture is a public health guardian, not metaphorically, for real, and India proved that in the hardest way possible. Fact 8. Vultures are far more intelligent than they look. The last fact is about the vulture's intelligence, and it's one of the most surprising for anyone who's never thought about it. Vultures have complex social behaviors. They communicate with each other in very subtle ways. When one vulture finds a large food source, others in the area pick up on it. Not through sound, because vultures barely vocalize, they're one of the quietest birds in existence. The communication happens through behavior, through flight posture, through movement. It's an information network that runs between them in an almost invisible way. On top of that, vultures learn from experience. They watch older vultures and copy behaviors. That's a direct sign of intelligence. It's not just instinct running on autopilot. It's learning through observation, which is exactly what more intelligent animals do. They also live in groups with hierarchy. When they arrive together at a feeding site, there's an order of access. Some species dominate others. There's negotiation, there's conflict, there's a structure that goes way beyond chaos. They don't all rush in at the same time fighting over everything. There's an organization that developed naturally over time. The vulture is not the random bird that shows up by chance and leaves. It's an animal with strategy, with social structure, with the ability to learn new things. And we almost never notice that because we only see the surface, that dark, silent bird circling the sky above something dead. Look at what you just found out about an animal that most people spend their whole lives looking down on. A bird that pees on its own legs as a hygiene and cooling system, that has a stomach capable of destroying anthrax and botulism, that has a sense of smell so sharp that gas companies used it as a leak detector, that doesn't build a nest and never needed to, that can go weeks without eating, that uses its own vomit as a weapon, that when it disappeared from one part of the world, people died, and that has a social intelligence most people never imagined existed. The vulture is not the villain of the story. It never was. It's one of the most underestimated and most important animals in the entire ecosystem. And while we spent our lives pushing this bird away, it was out there, silent, quietly cleaning the world for everyone. It's funny how nature works like that. The animals that look useless or ugly on the outside are usually the ones doing the most important work behind the scenes. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos.